Happy Friday, Miami. This is Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm also founder of Miami Condo Investing Club. You are watching Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast with myself and my co-host, who is the moderator, no one else but Daniel Hernandez from Compass Real Estate. His office is over in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses. He also does condos. We're going to give you straight talk, local perspective, no fluff here. What's up, Daniel?
What's up, Peter? Happy Friday. Happy Thursday. I'm on vacation. I don't know what day it is, but we don't miss a show. That's kind of what we're all about. There's so much happening in South Florida real estate that if we miss a show, then our next show is going to be like 2.5 hours long. And who wants to look at our ugly mugs for 2.5 hours? Or listen to us if you're on your way home. We are live on Substack because Peter insisted. He's got a lot of loyal followers. I wish I had as many loyal followers on Substack as you do, Peter, but I will get there. In any event, this is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is episode 18. We've been at this for almost half a year now, Peter. It's getting kind of crazy, kind of serious, this relationship
Well
that
done.
we have. Yeah, man. I love this. But if you are just joining us, the format of our show is pretty straightforward. You see here, we got a rundown. What's that? It's 5 topics that Peter and I have been butting heads against back and forth for the last few days. And we're going to talk about them. We've allocated about 7 minutes to each one. If we go a little bit over, that's okay because you're here for 60. So with that, let's jump right into it, Peter. Buy the Fed, sell the hype, hold for the data. There was some news that came out, well, what is it? Thursday today, Tuesday, yesterday, about Jerome Powell and the 7 dwarves. I had to look it up. There actually are several other governors, and I was just so happy when those numbers matched up together.
So, like we've been discussing all summer, the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States, is run by a gentleman called Jerome Powell. This point forward, I'm going to reference him as Old Man Powell. So Old Man Powell's been running the Federal Reserve this is his second term. He was appointed by President Donald Trump during the first Trump administration. Jerome Powell, Old Man Powell, he got pressure to cut interest rates. Why? Because Donald Trump is a developer. He's a condo developer. He builds other stuff, but basically he's a developer at heart. And Donald Trump knows, and we all know, that when you cut interest rates, housing activity goes up. And when you raise interest rates, housing activity goes down. The problem is we had a little thing in between, and that was called the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, our inflation went crazy. It went to 9.1%. Jerome Powell and the central bank, they want to keep inflation at 2%. So they were getting close to bringing it down from over 9% all the way down. We got as low as 2.3. It occurred in April. And as a result of that, it looked like we were at the brink of finally satisfying this goal of the Federal Reserve of having 2%
But
inflation.
what happened?
But because of the pressure of cutting rates to bolster housing, which has been struggling, South Florida real estate market, at least on the condo side, is struggling. As a result of that, because of the pressure, as well as repercussions from the tariffs, we're seeing job growth slow. Now, we also got AI, which is eliminating jobs. We got companies like Walmart. We got companies like General Motors who are absorbing the cost of the tariffs. But what they're doing, according to analysts, is when people leave their jobs, they're simply not replacing them. So as a result, we have a shrinking job market, and the central bank.
So what
they have
what
two
are you
responsibilities.
saying?
Well, the central bank has 2 responsibilities. One is inflation. The other one is jobs. And unfortunately, we have what is now deemed a 2-sided risk for the U.S. economy. Because if you're going to deal with inflation, you raise rates. You're going to deal with jobs, you cut rates. And now Jerome Powell finds himself in a conundrum. So what does he do yesterday on Wednesday? And the Federal Reserve Board meets. They're going to meet again in October and meet again in December. What does he do? He cuts interest rates by 25 basis points. So what does that mean in real terms? That means everything should be cheaper in perspective. But what happens to mortgage rates? Remember, Donald Trump wants housing to go up, and therefore you need to cut rates. So the Federal Reserve cut rates, and what happened today? Investors said we need more money to buy 10-year treasuries.
So mortgage rate went up, what, 10 basis points? Just even before the news came out, the idea that he would lower rates by at least a quarter point, which I know we talked about last week. Some people were calling for 75 BPs, right? Basis points, which is 3/4 of a percentage, guys. So just the market's irrational, right? And so the market will react based on news. And then the action happens, and then it's kind of like a deflated balloon. Or in this case, not a deflated balloon at all. It went the other way.
It went the other way. And here's why it went the other way. It went the other way because, like we've been discussing, even if mortgage rates come down, but people are afraid that they're going to lose their job or they don't have a job, that creates greater risk. So what we saw is the day before the cuts, and the cuts were on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday. It's coming out on Friday. So the day before the announcement by Jerome Powell, mortgage rates, according to Mortgage News Daily, were coming at 6.13. Jerome Powell cuts rates yesterday, and those mortgage rates, remember, this is separate from the Federal Reserve. This is what the industry, what they're going to buy the 10-year Treasury for, and mortgage rates are based off 10-year Treasury. So they go from 6.13, they fall, or they go up to 6.29, and where are they coming in today? They're coming in at 6.37. So we actually, we're actually higher than we were the day before Jerome Powell was supposed to make his announcement. And why are they doing that? Because investors are worried now that jobs are going to be slowing. And if jobs are slowing and people take out mortgages, they might not be able to repay them. Therefore, there's higher risk. There's greater risk. So while President Trump wanted lower mortgage rates, in effect, what he got is higher mortgage rates because of an interest rate cut. And by the way, inflation coming in at 2.9. Back in the first half of the year, it was as low as 2.3. There's a gentleman who is a bond trader called Jeffrey Dunlap from Double Line Capital, and he's known as the bond king. He anticipates inflation will end the year at 3%, if not 3.3. And Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, they want 2%. So we're going the other way in both categories, jobs and inflation. This is creating what's called a two-sided risk.
And explain this to me then. Inflation goes up, mortgage rates go up. So new mortgages, will we see less new mortgage? I mean, talk to me like I'm a youth, like I'm an ignorant, right? Like the juvenile that I am, right? So mortgage rates go up, inflation goes up. So that kind of puts a lid on new development because raw materials are going to cost more, right? What about refinancing? Are we going to see a boom in refinancing? Because, well, we're seeing these rates go up. Did we bottom out? Or is this as low as we're going to see them for a while? 4 days ago?
And that is a conundrum. The conversation going on right now, if you listen to any of the financial news, what they're saying is, how many more rate cuts do we have this year? They have something with the Federal Reserve, and understand the way it works. So there's 12 regional banks around the United States, and all these regional banks report to Old Man Powell in Washington, D.C., with the Federal Reserve. Miami is a branch under Atlanta. So Atlanta represents this general area. Yeah, correct. So they all report up, and then I think it's 10 times a year they get together and they decide what are we going to do on interest rates, because basically the only thing they can do is control interest rates. They either go up or they go down, and
that's the only lever that they have.
That's all they got to play with. They're effectively just one tool. They can do other things, but effectively they're just one tool. So the situation we're faced with today is, how do you kind of, which is a bigger risk? I mean, this is almost like, we've been focused on inflation for 42 months. 42 months. We got to get inflation to 2. We got to get the 2. We got to get the 2. Come August at the meeting in Wyoming at Jackson Hole, Powell comes out and says, we might have to do a shift because the job market is it's swinging, it's turning bad. And if we lose jobs, inflation theoretically should come down. But what we have right now is what some are saying potentially could be stagflation, because we got inflation going up, which means there should be a lot of demand. And we also got unemployment going down, or unemployment going up, but job growth going down. So in reality, it's typically one or the other. Now we have both. And the only explanation could be, well, there could be 2 explanations. One is AI and job elimination. The other one is tariffs. That's why stuff is going up. Jerome Powell in his press conference yesterday, he said that inflation is coming in 2.9% or so. About 0.4% of that is related directly to tariffs. So you can see what kind of impact tariffs is having. Has it trickled through all the way yet? And they're saying no. At least Jerome Powell said no yesterday during the press conference. It hasn't worked this way all the way through the system because the importers, the Walmarts of the world, the GMs of the world, they're absorbing it because they don't think the consumer can afford it. Now, what happens when they can no longer absorb it because their stock is getting hit because they're not turning the profit margin that they need to? And this is where Jerome Powell finds himself. And by the way, this dot plot, which is what they call it, there's 12 people who vote every time these interest rate issues come up. I think 5 of them are board of governors, and then the other ones are
No,
going
it's
to
the
be
seven
the regional banks.
dwarfs.
The 7 dwarfs. Correct. So you give an anticipation going forward what you think is going to happen, and the dot plot basically it gives a point. Where do you fall in? Do you think we're going to have another rate cut? Do you think we're solid? Do you think we're going up? So President Trump's new appointment, because somebody had resigned previously, that person is asking for 5 more rate cuts. Most people are claiming 1, possibly 2 more rate cuts, and some are claiming nothing. We can't do anything else because inflation is going up, and they're primarily focused on inflation. They're not
And Peter,
focused on
what
job growth.
So then what happens? It's like shifting the gears of a car, right? We were cruising, trying to tame inflation, and then we kind of redlined on that. So we switched it into second gear for jobs, and then they had to make that revision, which I've looked into this. Revisions have been made in the past, albeit this is relatively higher than other revisions, but it's not totally out of control. Great cut, by the way. How many of those do you have? So we've switched gears to tame the job problem. Can you do both at the same time? I'm not an economist. I don't pretend to be one. With that one lever of interest rates up, interest rates down, is it just a matter of how much am I lifting interest rates or lowering them? Is the increment, does that increment have to be 0.25? What happens if we make the, just humor me, 100 basis, not 100 basis, a full 100 basis point drop, flop. What happens?
Well, first and foremost, I want to give everybody a talking point. Okay, the talking point you need to know is during the pandemic, the thing we heard all the time, over and over and over, transitory. Raise your hand if you recognize the name transitory. Because remember, inflation was transitory and it was going to come back, and the Fed didn't want to do anything. And lo and behold, it wasn't transitory. It's still here. The term you need to know going forward after this week is two-sided risk. That means basically we don't know what the hell to do, and now they're going to be data dependent month to month. So they're going to try to play both sides. Think about somebody like who's dating 2 people, and you want to try to schedule one date in the afternoon and another one in the evening, and that's basically what the Fed has to do. So if one of them gets out of whack, they're going to have to adjust it. But the problem is they move in opposite directions. If you want to deal with inflation, you raise interest rates so there's less demand. People can't afford stuff. You want to deal with unemployment, you lower interest rates so people say, I can get my hands on cheap money, I can go ahead and hire. Now The Fed is saying they're going month to month, and the super majority of people are saying don't do any other rate cuts. Some actually call for a rate increase going forward because of inflation. So we have confusion across the board. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And inevitably, when you get a situation like that, you get what some would call paralysis by analysis or wait and
it just sort of,
and
it does sort of seem like paralysis by analysis, because you can't, when he lowered rates by 25 bips last December, did nothing really.
Nothing.
When you look at the next 3 quarters, because we're at the end of the third quarter, but I'll let you talk about that in a bit. It did nothing for my business. It did nothing for your business, I'm sure. And in terms of interest rates, like, I had a fine year. It was great. But the topic of interest rates did not come up with my clients, not once. It was like, it is what it is. It was 25 bips. We're going to get 25 bips now. Well, we got it yesterday. And so, look, I'm not an economist. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. But it sort of seems like, how about we just lower it by 100 pips, see what happens, but you're going to have to wait 6 months, 8 months for everything to play out. You can't lower it by 25, 25, 25, 25 over a course of a 4-month period and to say, well, it didn't do anything. Well, A, you didn't wait long enough, and B, you didn't really do much.
And this is the challenge. We're living in a time when everything is rapid response.
It's nanoseconds. Yeah, because you want a press release. I get it.
You want a press release.
And we shouldn't.
More importantly, you're going to be coming up with midterm elections.
Oh, so man, that's going to be so much fun. Hey, we got to buy, sell, hold on it though. So we buying the Fed, we buying the drop. Are we selling the hype? Or are we holding for more data?
I'm buying the Fed on them being stalwart, on them being steadfast, and them not chasing after FOMO and not chasing after YOLO. They're just
I mean,
grinding it out as much as the influence is.
Jerome, I'm gonna call him Jerry. You call him Old Man Powell. He probably hates both of those names, but I'm buying with Jerry. I think he's he's doing the best he can, and the reality is that he's only going to be in the job for the next 9 months anyway, less.
But remember, once he's out of the role of the chairman,
he's still a governor.
He then still sits on the board. He still sits on the board.
Yeah, sure. But somebody else is going to be the chair, and arguably the chair has influence over the other governors. Yada yada yada.
But on that point though, think about it. Jerome Powell cut rates. Okay, he didn't cut rates, but everybody voted. But he cut rates, and what did the bond market do? It did exactly what James Carville, the Democratic strategist, said way back in the day. When I die and I want to come back, I want to come back as the bond market because I don't have to pay attention to anything else. I get to make my own decisions. And the market is listening to what Powell is saying, and they're not listening to the nonsense. And that's why mortgage rates went up with 10-year Treasury.
All right, we're buying it. On to the next one. Hey, Peter, you ever heard of these condo cruises? You had. We were talking about it right before the show, but they've been in the news more and more recently. Anybody not from South Florida who's watching, we are the home of cruise ships between us and Port Everglades, which is up in Fort Lauderdale for like the really, really big ships. Not even a giant duffel bag full of money or duffel bags full of money or cruise ships full of money could have convinced the county to further dredge Port Dodge Island, Port of Miami, but never say never. I feel like I'm rambling. Am I rambling? Peter, would you, which is what this story is about, rent a cabin on a cruise ship on a month-to-month basis?
I absolutely would. I think it's great value. If you look at what it costs to rent a place in South Florida or to own a place in South Florida, if I could then get on a cruise ship, and I got my food, granted it's small, cramped style, I could make a go of it. I mean, think about it. When Jacksonville held the Super Bowl a couple years back, what did they do? They didn't have enough hotel rooms. They simply brought in cruise ships, and the accommodation.
Is that what they did? Really?
Bowl, cruise ships. What was it? St. John's River. Yeah, they brought them in. And that's how they dealt with this lack of hotel space. Now, I would totally live on a cruise ship. I've been on cruises quite a lot. I love the ability of constantly being able to move. I love how it's all minimalistic. I know I would do it in a second. And what did you say? $3,000 a month, $100 a day, dude, all in.
So I'm gonna give you some facts though, and maybe I can change your mind about this. So the company in question, it's called Villa V Residences, residential cruise line based in Pembroke Pines. Now on the Villa V Odyssey, it started as you had to buy the condo. I guess it was deeded. I don't know what the legalese was, but now you can get an inside villa. So that's just like literally a utility closet, for $299 per person, like $2,999 per person per month for an inside villa. Ocean view staterooms start at $3,500. And then there's a rent-to-own feature that allows $500 of those dollars to go towards the future purchase of a permanent villa. Doesn't sound crazy until you start farting around, and then you see this story that came out. Actually, let me do the old screen share because I know everybody loves the screen share with the gang. Woman who sold possessions for World Cruise removed from Belfast dock ship for negative messages. That ship that you see there, Peter, is one of the same, the Villa V Odyssey. It got, it's a ship. It breaks down. So it got stuck in Belfast for 3 months. And I guess this worrywart was talking bad things about the cruise. And very much like an HOA, could be compared to a fascist